There's a lot of cruelty and suffering in the world right now, so it's easy to lose faith in humanity. But this video will show you that there's still some good people left in this world. How many of you would risk your life to save a drowning animal? This man didn't waste a second thinking about it. He just jumped into the river and tried his best to save the drowning calf, which he did after a bit of struggle. A camel was laying in the middle of the road, and this man knew exactly what to do. He gave the camel water, which was exactly what the poor animal needed. A man threw a stick into the water, and one of the dogs, being the good boy that he is, tried his best to retrieve it, and he almost drowned because of it. Thankfully, his owner noticed it immediately and saved his dog in the nick of time. One man left his 6 dogs behind in flooded locked cages after a hurricane. Fortunately for the dogs, one man noticed them and he immediately jumped into the rescue and freed them all without hesitation.
Come on, puppy. It's okay. Come on.
This poor sheep named Victoria lived for years in the Australian bush, with 57 pounds of wool covering her body. A team of rescuers finally got a hold of her and brought her to the sanctuary where they sheared her, thus allowing her to have a normal life. A dog in Thailand got stuck in molten rubber, unable to move, with only his mouth poking out for air. Luckily for him, some people noticed him and called the emergency services, who commandeered an excavator to dig the pooch out of the rubber. This dog right here got stuck in some barbed wire. He then tried to rescue himself, but he only made things worse. Luckily, some people found him and carefully cut the wire. How devastating is this? The dog got stuck between a fence and a wall and was crying for help. Thankfully, some people heard his helpless cries and carefully helped him get out of a tough situation. I don't know what happened to this cat, but it fell unconscious and would have gone into cat heaven if it wasn't for the kind rescuer who performed a successful reanimation. Cats, even more than dogs, often find themselves in the most unusual of circumstances. Take a look at this cat. How it ended up there, no one knows. But the important thing is that someone noticed the poor animal and rescued it with the help of a rope. It's not just cats and dogs who get stuck in unusual places. This bear somehow ended up on the utility pole. I don't know what this man did. Whatever it was, allowed the bear to successfully climb down the pole. When this goat got stuck in a wheel, people didn't waste a second in trying to help the animal, which they eventually did after carefully removing the wheel. One look at this man giving water to a squirrel directly from the bottle is enough to warm your heart. You can just see the gratitude in the animal's eyes. A cat desperately needed a helping hand to get out of a tough situation, and one man immediately answered its call. With the help of a rope, the cat was safe in no time. At first, it seemed that this deer's antlers got stuck in a tree, but once the camera zoomed in, you realize the poor thing is stuck in some old chicken wire fence. Luckily for the deer, the Good Samaritan cut the fence and set it free. A sea turtle got stuck on the beach, and it was just laying there on its back, and it would have stayed that way for a really long time if it wasn't for this kind man who helped turn it around with the help of his friend. How this giraffe ended up with a tire around its neck, no one knows. But the important thing is that this group of people managed to remove the tire and save the animal. These people were enjoying a sunny day on their boat when they noticed a bear swimming beside them with a plastic jar stuck on its head. They immediately jumped to the rescue and saved the animal in no time.
Yes, gotcha. Yes, go. We saved our little bear.
Good job, buddy.
A few good men spotted a stray dog who had fallen into a canal and couldn't get out. So, what do? Well, they joined their forces, of course, and grabbed each other's hands. After a while, the dog was back to safety. This elephant named Pretty Boy approached the doctors as if to ask for help. The experienced doctors noticed the hole in its forehead, so they tranquilized the animal, and the x-ray confirmed it was a bullet in Pretty Boy's skull. Doctors then successfully removed the bullet. These two foxes were running in circles hoping to somehow find the way out of this abandoned pool. Luckily, one man noticed them, jumped inside the pool, got one out. The other one was a little more hesitant. This goose, named Victoria, lost its beak, and the poor thing couldn't even eat. But thankfully, 45 days later, she was able to get the new one, and it's all thanks to the 3D printed prosthetic designed by some Brazilian researchers.
Got her. I got ya. Yeah. Watch out for Mom. Hey, buddy. It's okay. I don't see any injuries. See you later, buddy.
This poor baby elephant got hit by a truck and couldn't get up as a result. It took about 20 people in order to even try and move the poor thing. They eventually did after a lot of struggle. How many of you would be brave enough to help a shark with your bare hands? Well, these two men didn't quit till they managed to return the blue shark to the water after it got stranded at the beach in New Zealand. A dog got hit by a car in India, and as a result, was left out in the middle of the road with his legs strangely stretched out in front of him. Turns out he had suffered nerve damage, but the rescue team gave their best to help the poor animal get back on its feet. A raccoon tried to break into the attic through the roof, but instead got stuck in a hole with its hind legs poking out. Thankfully, a man noticed it and helped the raccoon get out of a tough situation.
Slow.
No, this guy isn't jumping in the water with his clothes on just for the fun of it. He's on a very important mission, saving a cat from a possible drowning. After a bit of swimming, he finally got to the cat, picked it up, and brought it back to safety like the true hero he is. A giraffe got caught in a wired fence and was just laying on the ground motionless. One guy noticed the poor thing and cut the fence, which was supposed to free the animal, but the giraffe still wouldn't move. Then, the guy and his friend poked it with sticks, which did the trick.
He's alive, he's going. We just saved him! Yes!
This adorable little koala got thirsty, so it came by the pool hoping to get some water. A woman noticed and decided to help. The result, the incredible sight of the koala drinking water out of the woman's palm. A huge orca got stranded on a beach in Argentina, so it took the whole group of people working together in order to push the orca back to where it belongs. And finally, they made it. This cow right here somehow found herself in a pit filled with water, and then the rescuers came in and helped her get out with a rope. A huge python coiled itself around a poor deer and just couldn't let go of it. Luckily for the deer, one man was around and he wasn't afraid to get involved. He took a tree branch and poked the python a few times until eventually the snake let go of the deer. This poor squirrel had been swimming for quite some time, hoping to get out of the pool, but to no avail. And then a kind stranger came with a stick which he used to help the squirrel finally get out.
You take a second and rest, and then get yourself back up.
This dog fell into the LA River and just couldn't find its way out of it. When one man saw this, he just jumped into the raging river trying to save the dog, but the poor animal was just too scared and actually bit the man. The rescuers then pulled both the man and the dog out of the river.
Wow.
What a sight there.
Wow.
That's the shot right there. See, they did a rope there.
This poor little deer somehow ended up with snow on its face and would have certainly suffocated if it wasn't for the passersby who carefully removed the snow from the deer's face, saving its life in the process. As a result of a wildfire in Australia, this poor kangaroo got its hands burned. But then, this kind woman approached it and poured some water on it to make it easier for the animal. What a heart-melting moment. A baby elephant fell into the ditch in Kerala, India, and couldn't get out for hours. Then the rescuers came to save it with an earth mover. After the successful mission, you can see an elephant herd saluting the rescue workers before leaving. This cow named Rainbow was in such a bad condition, she couldn't even get up, let alone walk. But then, a team of rescuers found her and nursed her back to health. This poor dog fell into the icy pond and was having a hard time staying afloat. But then, this woman rushed to its rescue and pulled the poor dog out of the icy water. A baby elephant was stuck in a mud pit for 2 whole days until the rescuers came in. After a lot of struggle, they finally managed to save the animal.
Wow.
The poor little black puppy got stuck in some rock-solid tar. So when the rescuers finally heard its cries, they had to break the tar from the ground in order to save it. This dog right here fell into a mud pit. He certainly wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for some good Samaritans who came into the pit in order to bring the dog to safety. When this guy saw a seagull stranded at a beach, he didn't waste a second in trying to help it out. Once he came closer, he realized that the seagull was trapped in a fishing line. So he carefully cut the fishing line and released the traumatized bird.
Hey! Look, he's off! Yes!
Some people were enjoying their time on a boat when they spotted a macaque monkey having trouble swimming. The next thing you know, they approached it with the boat so the monkey could climb onto it.
Calma, vai. Que animal.
Puppy was choking on a piece of sausage and had trouble breathing. He would have certainly been a goner if it wasn't for this kind gentleman who removed the sausage and massaged the dog's heart in order to save it. This dog couldn't get out of a pit full of garbage, but then rescue workers came in and helped him get out. What a touching scene. A traffic constable saw a monkey in a desperate need for some water, so he did the only thing he could and gave the poor animal water directly from the bottle. This poor dog was about to be mauled by a bunch of alligators when this guy thought of a unique solution to get him out, and it involved a jacket. Now that's what you call quick thinking. This dog couldn't get out of a pit full of garbage and wastewater, but thankfully, some people noticed it just in time to rescue the poor thing. A python coiled itself around a dog, and there wasn't a single thing the poor pup could do about it. But luckily, these kids were around to save the dog with their bare hands. This dog got its head stuck in a plastic jar, and the people around it couldn't save the dog because it was too afraid to let them anywhere near it. So they captured the dog with a net, which finally allowed them to remove the plastic jar. Just watch this heartwarming moment when a mother sloth got reunited with its baby, and it's all thanks to the rescue workers who managed to find the baby after it had fallen from a tree. This man had captured a wild cat, but it was all for the right reasons. He had to do it in order to free the animal that got trapped, and capturing it was the only way for him to do so. A squirrel fell into a pool and just couldn't for the life of it get out. But thankfully, this man was around, and after a while, he finally managed to get the squirrel out.
Walk away, let it rest.
This dog just couldn't get out of the water. Luckily, there was a man nearby who rescued the poor animal with the help of his friend. Not one, but 11 horses were trapped in the icy water. Thankfully, they were rescued by these people who knew exactly what needed to be done in order to save the horses. These goats were in a rush to get somewhere, and when one of them fell unconscious, this guy right here gave it CPR and saved its life. This guy spotted a cat with a bad case of mange. Poor cat almost looked like a stone, but the guy took her in, fed her, and then rescue workers gave the cat proper treatment and managed to find her a new home. A sea lion somehow ended up with a tire around its neck, and it took quite a bit of effort from this kind man in order for the sea lion to finally break free. Here we have a couple of donkeys that are left to freeze outside. Hopefully the man filming the video found them a shelter. This poor zebra is trying its best to get up, but it just can't, and the guy in the video tries to help out the exhausted animal by pouring some water on it. This sea turtle got parasites stuck on its head. That must have been really hard for the animal. Thankfully, this guy found it and carefully removed the parasites, saving the sea turtle's life in the process. This poor dog somehow got stuck in the curtains, and it was panicking pretty badly when an officer arrived just in time to set him free.
No whipping.
Now here's an unusual sight if there ever was one, a man giving a thirsty cobra some water directly from the bottle. That's just fascinating. The girl was doing a TikTok dance, but then her dog fell into a pool, and she immediately jumped to the rescue. This dog fell off a cliff and he couldn't move, but thankfully, a rescue team found it just in time to save it. This man stopped the traffic just to allow Mama Duck and a group of her ducklings to cross the busy street. A donkey was stranded in the middle of the road. He couldn't move and was bleeding when the rescuers finally came in, picked up the donkey, and put him into the vehicle in order to give him the necessary treatment. A rat had fallen into what seemed to be an abandoned well, and this guy jumped inside to save it. He had a little bit of trouble catching the rat, but eventually he did, and the rat was back to safety. An injured seagull came to this guy's window, and he immediately gave it something to eat. The seagull was then seen flying away in order to feed the babies as well. And here we have drivers stopping their cars to allow the duck family to pass through. Some guys found a dog in front of their hostel. Poor dog was seriously dehydrated and hungry, so these kind people gave it water and biscuits. The recent flood in Pakistan has devastated the country, and this cat would have certainly lost its life if it wasn't for this rescue worker. A hawk was in desperate need of water, so these guys gave it to him. What a beautiful sight that is. This frog was captured by a bird by its head and just wouldn't let go. Poor bird certainly would have been a goner if it wasn't for this kind fellow who got the frog out of the bird's head. This dog fell into Lake Michigan, but the police officer quickly rushed to the scene and saved the dog. This fox was really hungry, so it approached these fishermen hoping for some fish. And of course, it got some. A baby deer fell into a cold lake in Northern California, but luckily some people on a boat were around, and they helped the poor baby get out of the water. An adorable baby owl had fallen from its hollow. Thankfully, this couple were kind enough to get it back up. With the help of a picnic table and a long tree branch, they managed to bring the cute little owl back home. These workers had to use a machine in order to help a bear that was stuck under a concrete pit. The firefighters had to use a helicopter to save a horse. What an amazing rescue mission! And this is how a small kid helps out a thirsty dog. This squirrel came by a man's house and he offered it a snack. The squirrel was a little hesitant at first, and then it happily accepted the snack right out of the man's hand. Chito, a Costa Rican fisherman, found an injured crocodile 20 years ago. He nursed